How we doing, everybody? UFC Thoughts here, and today I'm going to be recapping UFC 309 Jones vs. Miocic that just took place yesterday. On picks, I did all right. I went 7-5, the worst of the month so far. Still went positive though, like pick number wise. I probably missed like betting number wise, but yeah. Let's just get right into the main event. John Jones versus Stipe Miocic. Yeah. Honestly, this is how I originally thought the fight would look. Coming into the fight week, I don't know what hit me. I don't know if old man Stipe, I don't know if his vibe just bought me into the idea that maybe he could make it competitive. And to be fair, in round 2 and quite a bit of round 3, he was able to do that. Stipe was catching John a little bit. He was making John run away, and John started to plot around after the first round. These guys, Stipe looked 42, man. He couldn't, even fully extend his arms. He got absolutely thrashed in that first round after John Jones was able to get an Osatari. It's the shit that Zabit does, where you fucking put, your lead leg behind him and then you, fucking throw him down. It was weird. I've never seen anybody do it at heavyweight, and John was able to do it to Stipe. Old man Stipe! Stipe he looked so slow. His technique wasn't even really crazy good in this fight. He looked like an old man. He looked how I honestly thought he would look originally, but during fight week, I was like, people forget, man. He's a Golden Glove boxing champion, man. And I was like, maybe he has been training, but no. Stipe looked kind of bad in this fight. He looked pretty bad. And, yeah, I don't know. Joe Rogan said it. He said that John Jones looked great. I don't think John Jones looked great. All right, he didn't look in the first round. He looked pretty good, but after that, he looked kind of slow during time. Now John Jones had a humongous speed advantage in this fight, but there were still moments where slow ass Stipe was able to fucking land on him, and I'm like, no, you can't. No. That's against a guy like Tom Aspinall, right, who is going to be faster than you. That's just, he is the quickest heavyweight on the roster, who also has takedown defense, who is known for his wrestling background, jiu-jitsu background, the whole shaboing-boing. I think that this performance honestly shows me that John will more than likely lose to Tom Aspinall. Going into this fight, now I didn't say this, but in my mind, I honestly was thinking that Tom Aspinall-John Jones fight is most likely a 50-50 fight. After this fight, where Stipe Miocic, as slow and old as he is, was able to land on John Jones. Now, John Jones did get a brutal finish, I will say that. He looked, good. He did look good. He looked fast. He looked quicker than he did in the Cyril Gane fight. His striking, his shot selection was very good against a guy like Stipe Miocic. He landed well most of the time. John looked good. But it's more or less that Stipe Miocic looked that bad. He looked very slow. He looked very old, which this fight kind of reminded me, watching, I was like, this reminds me of fucking Mike Tyson, Jake Paul. I was like, dude, Stipe looks so slow. He looks withered. Honestly, I don't think he wanted to be there. I think they rolled Stipe out of bed and was like, you're fighting John Jones. And he was like, where you are? You're OH. I But, OH! Yes, by the way, Stipe retired. As he should, but great career from Stipe. We all love you, buddy. Still the most world-renowned heavyweight fighter in UFC history. Which is how everyone should view him as. But I think a guy like Tom Aspinall could very easily overtake a guy like Stipe Miocic. But, yeah, great career from Stipe. This fight, though, it didn't need to happen. This fight did not need to happen. It just didn't. It should have been Tom Aspinall in there anyways. And this fight kind of proved that. But back to what I was saying, I think that John Jones-Aspinall fight is more... I think Tom should be the favorite to win. And I know you never bet against John Jones, this, that, and the other, but after that first round, where it's not like he exerted a ton of energy. Like, it's not like he, like, blew his wad. He started plodding around in that second and third round. Now, here's the thing. We don't know about Tom Aspinall's cardio because he has the shortest average fight time in UFC history. We don't know. But I don't know if Jon Jones is going to be able to fucking you know what I'm trying to say. Astari grip him or whatever it is. He's not going to get a starry trip on fucking Tom Aspinall. All right? I think Jon Jones, here's what I think. I don't think we're going to see Jon Jones and Tom Aspinall fight each other. I don't think we are. My dad put up a very good point. It's going to be like when him and Francis were supposed to fight, where Jon was like, for a large portion, like a couple months, Jon was like, this fight's going to happen. And then Jon Jones backtracked and was like, you know what, the UFC is not going to pay me enough money. This is supposed to be the biggest fight in UFC history. They're not paying me enough. I'm out. I think that's what's going to happen. I don't think it's too good to be true, in my opinion, that we see Jon Jones actually fight Tom Aspinall. But yeah, after that fight, I think there's moments where Jon Jones is running away and he has his hands down and he's slowly, ploddily walking away, and Stipe, hands down, is able to push him back and just land clean on him sometimes. I'm like, oh no, dude. I think Tom cleans him. I think he would clean Jon Jones now. And I didn't think that. I think Jon, in that fight, prior to this fight, I thought that Jon Jones he had a great chance of winning. After this, if that's the only fight left for him. Because Dana was like, you're not fighting Alex Pereira. I don't want to see that fight. I want to see you and Tom fight. I don't know, man. We move to the co-main event. Charles Oliveira versus Michael Chandler 2. Very shocked this went to decision. A large portion of this fight was just Charles kind of butt-fucking Michael Chandler until the fifth. Chandler was cheating almost the whole fight. He was grabbing the cage, grabbing the inside of his glove. He was trying to like poke him in the eye a bunch on his back. Charles walked him down like no man's business and just stalked him and pushed him against the fence and was just taking him down with ease. It was a good performance from Charles Oliveira for the first 4 rounds. Very solid performance. Round 5, Michael Chandler clips him very heavily and then proceeds to not knock him down. Charles goes for like a takedown, or Michael slips after charging up a fucking left hand and then slips, and then Charles tries to get on his back and he ends up against the cage in a weird position, and Michael Chandler lands maybe 15 back of the head shots. And I was like, there's no way they stop this. Charles Oliveira survives, he perseveres. Michael Chandler ends up giving up his back, or they get back up and Charles gets the takedown and gets his back again. Charles was easily able to get to Chandler's back, which is crazy, but he wasn't able to sub him, which I kind of get it. But on the feet for the first 4 rounds, Chandler really couldn't get anything going. He was landing, but it's like Charles didn't really respect anything coming at him, and he would respond with a 5-punch parlay of punches from his own ambition and just kind of tagging and stinging Michael for almost the entire fight. It was a good performance from Charles. This fight, I still don't think Charles beats Islam. I just don't. I just don't. I don't think he beats Islam still, even after this fight. And Michael Chandler, the 5th round was very entertaining because Michael started having showmanship by like dropping on his back like he did in the first fight where Charles was on his back but he was standing up and Chandler was like, fuck it, and then just jumped and he did it twice. Chandler's cardio looked good. It actually looked pretty solid in this fight, and I did not expect that. He was in great shape for this fight. And Charles looked pretty solid. His cardio looked good too, and it was a fun fight. It wasn't as entertaining as I thought it was going to be. I thought that there was going to for sure be a finish in this one, but there wasn't. But yeah, Charles kind of pieced him up for the first 4 rounds. Chandler really didn't do anything, but then the 5th round, he catches Charles heavy with like a 3-punch combination, and then Charles just tries to take him down, gets his face smushed against the cage, and just starts getting the back of his head beat the fuck up. But, yeah, good win from Charles Oliveira. Probably him versus the winner of Islam versus Arman next. Chandler, I don't even know. Like, there's entertaining fights. I mean, you kind of do the Conor fight. I don't really care, but that's a fight. And after that fight, Chandler probably... That's a weird fight. We move to the featured fight. Bo Nickal versus Paul Craig. Ah, man. I had a bad feeling that this is how this fight was going to go. I had a really nightmarish feeling that Bo Nickal was not going to be able to do what he should do against a guy like Paul Craig. He won. Bo Nickal clearly won all 3 rounds. He landed the better shots than Paul Craig, but you can't be making Paul Craig look competent on the feet, man. You can't be making Paul Craig look like he can actually become something at middleweight, man. Paul Craig was landing on Bo Nickal. Paul Craig was reading Bo Nickal at moments. Like, he saw the tendencies of Bo very quickly. Bo Nickal, whenever he went to the body, Paul tried a couple knees up the middle. And I'll tell you what, Paul was whipping them body kicks like I said he would. That's all he has. But Paul showed some, like, alright jabs in this fight. He was catching Bo. Like, all Bo has is that overhand and then, like, a straight to the body. He landed some good leg kicks, too. This is not a guy that's championship or even ranked material. I think Bo Nickal would probably lose to a lot of guys in the rankings at middleweight. Oh man, Michel Pereira is a weird one. Because his cardio looks so bad. A Fluffy Hernandez would beat Bo Nickal. A Hermanson, I think, would easily beat. I think Jack Hermanson would be able to beat Bo Nickal with ease, in my opinion. Costa would. Like, I know we're getting higher up in the rankings, but I think, like, some unranked guys would beat Bo Nickal now. I think that RoboCop fight would be very interesting. I think a Joe Pyfer fight would be very interesting. You know? It wasn't like that before. I had some suspicion after I saw fucking Cody Brundage fling you across the cage. But now, I don't even know if you're a ranked guy anymore, Bo. One, he needs to be more active. That's something. He says that most of the work happens in training. Yes, it does. But you also improve heavily when you get experience in the cage. I get it's your fucking, what is it, your 4th fight in your UFC career. You're fighting Paul Craig. Cool, I understand it. Paul Craig's not an easy fight. He isn't. But, like, when you're getting talked about, when the way you talk is like, oh, Khamzat Chimaev, I would ragdoll that guy. Khamzat would fuck you up, man. Dude, I don't, like, he's very rudimentary on the feet. Same thing over and over again. He struggled with Paul Craig's size, which, if you're struggling with the size of Paul Craig, I got some bad information for you, man. A lot of guys in that top 10 are more than 6'2", alright? Khamzat's like 6'2", 6'3", Israel 6'4", Dreykus is like he's a tall 6'1", because he's big as shit. Paulo Costa like 6'2", 6'3". A lot of those guys are big. If you're having trouble finding your range and plotting against Paul Craig, that's not good, man. It just isn't. It isn't a good look, and it's not good for your status. People were chanting overrated like it's a fucking high school football game on you, man. I think people are starting to realize it now. This is all America has right now, besides like Peyton Talbot, which is sickening to me, by the way, that this is like, this is our guy. This is the guy. This is the guy that we got to look forward to as an American prospect. This is it. This is the guy that I have to be like, oh, fucking Bo, this guy, he could do something. No, he can't. He didn't look good. Like, he definitively won, but Paul Craig was landing on you. at a pretty solid clip. And it's not like, and people will be like, oh, but he didn't really wrestle him. And it's like, I don't even care that he didn't wrestle him. Honestly, I'm shocked he didn't. I know I said that he shouldn't wrestle him because I thought he was going to easily beat Paul Craig on the feet, which it was competitive. But it's like, I've seen Brendan Allen make Paul Craig look like shit on the ground, too. Like, I've seen people make him look bad on the ground. Like, Volkan Oezdemir. I've seen people make Paul Craig look like complete shit, even on the ground, where he's his most dangerous. Bo Nickal couldn't even, dominate him in the area where he's at his worst. I don't know, man. A lot of hype died off from Bo Nickal after this fight. Listen, he can probably... He needs to fight more. He cannot have this activity where he's fighting once every fucking 6 or 7 months. You can't do that, bud. It's not how that works. You gotta fight more. Honestly, I'm surprised they gave him Paul Craig in his 4th fight. I honestly thought they were going to give him some bullshit like fucking Jose Medina for his fucking 4th fight. This showed there's levels at middleweight, and Bo Nickal isn't even in like the 3rd rung right now. He needs a lot of work. He needs to work on boxing, 100%. Boxing, very, very simple. Very simple striking from Bo Nickal. We move to Viviane Araújo versus Karine Silva. I thought Karine Silva won. Maybe that's me being biased because I did pick her to win. But, you know, it is what it is. Viviane looked good. She looked very crafty. She had some moments where she used her veteran status and was just able to roll in certain positions with Karine Silva. Yeah, I'm not mad at the decision. I thought Karine Silva could have won. It was a competitive fight. Definitely died down the hype a lot of the card, but, you know, it was all right. There were some moments where Karine was slinging hammer fists on the feet. Karine needs to work on a lot, though. She needs to work on her fight IQ, her cardio quite a bit. Just more technical striking as well. She looked very sloppy during moments, but Viviane won. She looked all right. Her striking, her speed looked very well early on. Karine Silva was kind of throwing at ghosts, and Viviane was catching her early with some like uppercuts and jabs and straights. But then Karine rocked her at the end of the 1st round, gave her the 1st round. The 2nd round, Karine rocked her on the feet again, but then kind of gave up top position, and Viviane ended up on top. Round 3 was close. I think the visual of Karine just laying on her back really gave a bad, oh, you're not winning this fight to the judges. But she did land more, and I thought she landed, some heavy shots as well, but it is what it is. We move to the start of the main card, Mauricio Rufy versus James Yontop. Man, James Yontop put up a solid fight. He won the 3rd round. Mauricio has a cardio issue. We've now seen it. We've now seen what his thing is. In the Fighting Nerds, he's the first guy that we've seen, oh, there's something about you. His cardio. He's literally Conor McGregor. He's very explosive early on, gasses and wanes in the late 2nd, early 3rd. He still looked good in the first 2 rounds. He was catching James quite a bit throughout the fight. Knocked him down in the 2nd round. Looked very fluid in rounds 1 and 2. Took him a while to find his moment in the 1st round. I honestly thought James was winning the 1st round for the most part until Mauricio cracked him with that overhand right, or straight right, that kind of rocked him, and that gave him the round. Round 2, he kind of just rocked James throughout the whole round. But then at the end of the round, James was kind of making his way, and then round 3, James kind of walked him down the entire time. And started, Mauricio was landing good on him, but James was also landing good on Mauricio. And was making it a dirty fight. He was getting in the clinch exchanges, throwing dirty boxing. James looked alright. I don't think they should cut him. I know he's 0-3 in the UFC, but I think this fight showed that James Yontop does have some upside. It was an entertaining fight. And, James is actually alright. He exposed the hole in Mauricio Rufy's game, which is his cardio. But, yeah. we'll see what happens. Mauricio still looked solid on the stand-up. Had some moments on the feet, very much so. Dropped him with a look-away, fade-away uppercut. Landed the straight right hand a lot throughout this fight. Just couldn't find the finish, and I kind of thought about that because I was like, James is a very tough kid. Very, very tough. Too tough for his own good sometimes. We saw that in the Vyacheslav-Borshov fight where he was getting cracked for a large portion of that fight. His legs were getting beat the fuck up, and he still was just moving forward. But, yeah, good win for Mauricio Rufy. Not the, performance I would have liked from him. I know it was still a solid performance, but we did see what his issue is. It's the cardio, but, yeah. We move to the featured prelim, Jonathan Martinez versus Marcus McGee. Fuck, Jonathan, what are we doing? What are we doing, man? This fight made me mad. I'm not gonna lie. It pissed me off. This fight pissed me off. Marcus McGee looked like a savant on the feet in the first 2 rounds. He was catching Jonathan, not catching him, but he was completely outstriking him throughout the entire fight. Jonathan was throwing low kicks the entire fight. It's just early on, Marcus was able to evade them almost the entire time until about the second round where Jonathan was able to start cracking his legs and he hurt him at the end of the second round. Round 3, Jonathan is down 2 rounds, clearly down 2 rounds. He hurts Marcus's leg, his right leg, very bad. Rocks him, almost drops him to the ground. That's how bad he has his leg hurt. And then Jonathan clinches him for a minute and a half, wasting time, giving Marcus time to recover. And right as they exit, Jonathan catches his leg with a leg kick again and hurts him again. And it's almost like, what would have happened with another minute and 30 seconds where Jonathan is able to push forward and maybe land a couple more low kicks. I don't know. Maybe I'm just spitballing here. We don't want to go with the plan. Marcus did look good for 2 rounds. And even in the third round, even with one leg, he was still landing on Jonathan Martinez's boxing range with his hands. Marcus looked good. Jonathan Martinez, very disappointing performance, in my personal opinion. I just thought, he would be able to get going a little sooner. I think the Jose Aldo fight really took a bit of his mentality away from him a little bit. I think he lost a lot of his, confidence in that fight, which I don't know why you would. I don't know why you would lose a lot of confidence. It's fucking Jose Aldo. He'll be back. Marcus McGee is in the top 15 now. After that fight, you could probably do him versus fuck it. Do Marcus McGee, Jose Aldo. That fight would be fucking awesome. That fight would be cool, and Jose Aldo would take that fight. Or Marcus, no, he wouldn't fight Mario Batista because they're butt buddies. He wouldn't fight Kyler Phillips either because they're butt buddies. Maybe him versus Ayman Zahabi, who's also in the rankings just now. Kind of like a prospect, quote-unquote, fight, even though they're both fucking old as shit. We move. Oh, that fight didn't even happen. We moved to Jim Miller versus Damon Jackson. I'm looking at Chris Weidman. I'm like, they didn't fucking fight. Jim Miller, Damon Jackson. This is exactly what I thought wouldn't happen. I thought Damon Jackson wasn't going to get subbed, but he did. He got choked out by a guillotine and retired. I know Jim Miller, I said it, I know Jim Miller has one of the nastiest guillotine pulls in UFC history. I don't know how many guillotines he has now, but he has the second most subs, I believe, in UFC history after this fight. And he was the first guy to ever sub, the first and only guy to ever sub Damon Jackson after tonight, or after yesterday. Damon was catching Jim Miller, and Jim Miller was kind of catching Damon Jackson, but Damon Jackson, for some reason, started to get a little, squirrely, and started shooting very lazy takedowns, and then Jim Miller just got an arm in a guillotine and submitted him. I don't know. Very weird performance from Damon Jackson, a guy who, was able to competently grapple with Alexander Hernandez, able to safely do that. I think it was just a weird thing where he, ducked under a right hand and then got way too low on the double leg, or was it a single leg that he went for? He got way too low for this takedown and just gave up his neck. Great win from Jim Miller after the beating he took in April. But, yeah. Good win from Jim Miller, Damon Jackson. Safe retirement, fella. Jim Miller's making it to UFC 400. No, he's not, but good win. We move to David Onama versus Roberto Romero. Now, this fight was cool. The first round, they both drop each other. Roberto Romero, from the tape I watched, his striking was very simple. Very, slower. He looked good in this fucking fight, man. He looked very good in this fight, striking-wise. Defense, not so much. David Onama's a weird guy. I knew going into this fight, after watching that Gabriel Santos fight back, dude, David Onama gets hit a lot, especially early on. He gets hurt. And that's something I gotta remember going forward, is that David Onama isn't like this, Terminator. Dude, he gets hit and cracked a lot now. I don't know what it is. I get he's older now. How old is David Onama? He's an older guy, ain't he? He's only 30. Jesus, he looks fucking... Alright. Roberto's a young kid. Showed why he should step up short notice. The first round was very close. After that, David Onama started clipping him. You could see that the short notice was starting to wean in a little bit or creep up on Roberto Romero. His cardio started to fail him. He started to slow down heavily. He started to get taken down with ease. David Onama was kind of just camping half guard on him and kind of just controlling him the entire time. He pulled him down at one point with a darce and then just kind of beat him up a little bit on the ground. But yeah, good win for David Onama. Good showing for Roberto Romero in his debut. I've seen David Onama land the strikes that he landed on Roberto Romero on some other guys, and they kind of crumble. But Roberto Romero held up. He's a tough young kid, 24 years old. I can't wait to see him back. This is a lesser Felipe Dos Santos performance to me, where Felipe stepped up against Manel Kopp short notice, and he was landing heavy on him. But Roberto, good win. Not good win for him, but good showing in his debut against a tough guy like David Onama. David Onama showing improvements in his grappling yet again. His striking still got cracked a lot early on. Kind of needs to get hit to get going, does David Onama. But when he started cracking Roberto, he started having beautiful combinations in that second round. But good win. We move to Marchant Tybura versus Jonathan Diniz. What do you guys know about Marchant Tybura, dude? What do you guys fucking know about Marchant Tybura, dude? Marchant Tybura is the fucking man, dude. Fuck you talking about this prospect bullshit at heavyweight, dude. Jonathan Diniz is just fat. He's a fat kickboxer. Yeah! Yeah, dude. Man. I love seeing a tubby veteran fucking fraud check a dude that everyone's like, fucking Jonathan Diniz. I was actively watching this fight, happy that Marchant was using his blubber to try and submit Jonathan Diniz. Here's the thing. Jonathan Diniz almost finishes Marchant Tybura in the first 10 seconds. I shit you not. He catches Marchant coming in, drops him with his short left hand. Jonathan ends up allowing himself to get into this 50-50 heel hook position with Marchant Tybura. And I'm almost like, what is he doing? He allows Marchant to get top mount, and like I said, man, Jonathan gets taken down once. His cardio goes out the window, and he slows down. He looked terrible in that second round, even on the feet. Marchant was landing heavy on him on the feet, and then Jonathan Diniz threw a sloppy, slow, right straight, and Marchant Tybura got on his hips, pushed him against the cage, and Jonathan was like, you know what, I'm not going to sprawl. I'm just going to try and fucking not search for an underhook. I'm just going to try and squat. And Marchant was like, you fat brother, and took him down and then elbowed the shit out of him. It was a doctor stoppage because apparently they were worried that Jonathan was concussed. But it's a fight. You know what I mean? They put the flashlight in his eyes and are like, dude, are you alright? And Jonathan was like, I'm fine, brother. There's a photo of him after the second round where his face is all red, his eyes are bloodshot. He had cuts on both of his eyelids, which is that's gotta fucking suck and hurt now. I feel bad now for Jonathan. I know I was cheering against him. I feel bad for the fat boy. This is what happens. This is what happens, man. People forget, man. Jonathan Diniz is just a fat guy. Good one for Marchant Tybura. We move to Mickey Gall versus Ramiz Brahimaj. Whoa. Rough. Mickey got put out pretty bad, and I did not expect Ramiz to sound like that. I forgot what his voice sounded like. Ramiz and Mickey were throwing down in the first round. They were throwing heavy shots. Mickey was catching them. Ramiz was catching them, and then Ramiz throws this like left hand, right hook, and he catches Mickey with the right hook right on his temple, and it just sets him down, and he goes out. Brutal finish. And this is the thing, throughout this fight card, you know, there was a lot of decisions. I was like, dude, the first 3 fights, Basil Lafez got brutally KO'd by Obon, Mickey Gall got brutally KO'd, Eduardo was landing heavy shots on Veronica Hardy. I was like, dude, the new gloves are back, and then just, you know, then we got the finish of Marchant, but those were the elbows, and then decision, submission, decision, and then body kick TKO, so maybe the new gloves aren't worth it, but back to Ramiz. Great performance from him. Great win. First ever KO win for the dude against Mickey Gall, which is like, you know, it's all right. But, you know, I just didn't think he was going to be able to beat Mickey Gall. You know, after seeing the fucking Temba Garimbo fight, I was like, this guy ain't good. He laid out Mickey Gall, though. Great win for Moraes. He's from the Bronx for sure. Holy fuck, he sounds fun. No, Joe, I can't even do an impression of him. Just wow, his voice is like incredibly deep for some reason. But yeah, we move to Basil Hafez versus Obon Elliott. Great performance from Obon Elliott. Clearly won the first 2 rounds. Basil wasn't landing, like, he landed one heavy shot. It was a head kick in the first round, but besides that, he didn't really land a lot on Obon Elliott. And I saw some people on Twitter like, oh, dude, yeah, I had that fight in 1919. Because one judge had it 2018 to Basil Hafez, and one judge had it 1919. I don't understand how you can have either of those scorecards. I thought Obon Elliott clearly won the first 2 rounds. He not only did he outstrike Basil, he was landing the better shots for the most part. I don't even remotely understand how you can come up with those 2 scorecards. It doesn't matter because Obon Elliott ended up having one of the more brutal KOs of the year over Basil Hafez in that 3rd round. Early in the third, Obon catches him with a right hook, like right on the front of his face. It was like right in the center, and Basil just went out, man. JDM couldn't do it, but so the Welsh gangster is here, I guess. I don't like Obon Elliott for some reason. I don't know what it is. I didn't like him ever since the Val Woodburn fight. It was a good win. Showed improvements in the striking again, looked very fluid, very technical. I didn't really understand what Basil's game plan was in this fight. He didn't look like himself nearly enough. He wasn't like throwing caution to the wind. He was trying to have like a technical tit-for-tat fight with Obon Elliott for the most part. Didn't shoot a single takedown on Obon. I know Obon's got great wrestling, but Obon shot a takedown on Basil Hafez. It was like, well, it doesn't say that he went for a takedown, but in that first round, he went for a clinch exchange, from what I remember. But yeah, great win from Obon Elliott. That is a good win, because Basil Hafez, I get it. You know, he's now 1-2 in the UFC, but he is a tough son of a bitch. So that's a great win. We move to Veronica, to the start of the card. Veronica Hardy versus Eduardo Moura. At least I got this underdog. I didn't hit on any of the other ones, but, you know, at least Eduardo Moura pulled through with me. She just beat Veronica Hardy, outmuscled her. Veronica was landing some good body kicks, but besides that, she kind of just, like, didn't land a lot. Eduardo didn't land a lot either, but she landed the better shots for sure, and she ended up getting takedowns and did a bit on the ground, just controlled her for a little bit. Eduardo looked good. She should stay at flyweight. Never go back down to strawweight. You literally kill yourself to make the weight. You're not a strawweight. Fight at flyweight. You still have a pretty solid size advantage up the weight class. So, yeah. I thought Veronica lost, or won the 3rd round, though. So it was like 29-28. I think they scored it. Did they score it 30-27? They shouldn't. It should have been 29-28, but yeah, good one from Eduardo Moura. She definitely still slowed down, but she kind of just was like having showmanship. I don't know, but yeah. UFC 309, kind of a weird card. Jones looked all right. Stipe did not. The Chandler Oliveira fight was cool. Nickal lost a lot of hype. There were some fun fights on the card. A lot of, like, Jonathan Martinez, Marcus McGee kind of let me down a little bit. Not because it wasn't entertaining. It was, like, entertaining, but, like, Jonathan just kind of... There were a lot of low IQ moments on this card, but, yeah. This week we got Figueiredo versus... Or Jan versus Figueiredo and Macau. Very early card. Special start time for that. UFC 310 got refurbished. New main event. I can probably make a video on that if you guys want. But, yeah. I'll see you guys in my next video. Peace.